Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. We have a good one for you this morning. People want to understand how to go all in with Workday for analytics and reporting. And we're rapidly innovating. The 2020 R2 release will see 2 new products from our analytics portfolio become GA, Discovery Boards and Workday People Analytics. So with Workday, analytics and reporting tools are purpose-built for HR and finance teams and seamlessly integrated with core transactional systems. And my hope is that everyone leaves this webinar with an understanding of how all the pieces fit together. My name is Will Roger, and I'm a Solution Marketing Manager for the Analytics business here at Workday. Joining me today are Manogna Bhargava, Principal Product Manager, and Don Stacy, Master Principal Enterprise Architect. I assure you, 2 of Workday's very best analytics and reporting experts. Thank you, Manogna and Don, for making the time today. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping items. At the bottom of your screen is a gray bar with multiple application widgets that you can use. The Help widget provides resources and information for common technical issues. The Slide widget is where you view the actual presentation. The Media player lets you control your audio, and later on, this is where you will be able to view Don's demo. The Q&A widget is where you submit any questions you may have during the webcast. We will answer these via text, or we'll save them for live answering at the end. But if a fuller answer is needed, or if we run out of time, it will be answered later via email. Please know that we do capture all questions, and we'll make sure to respond. The resource list provides additional materials related to Workday analytics and reporting. We've also included a link to register for upcoming installments of the Looking Forward with Workday webinar series. Lastly, an on-demand version of the webcast will be available approximately 1 day after the webcast ends and can be accessed using the same audience link that was sent to you earlier. Today's agenda starts with a brief overview of our analytics and reporting solution. Manogna will then provide an overview of Discovery Boards, a true game changer for us. We'll then do a lightning round of frequently asked questions, and I'm thinking that this will help us all be on the same page before Don dives into an extended demo of the product. Now, today's demo will provide a crash course on most of our analytics and reporting capabilities, emphasizing different personas and who uses which tool and for what. Lastly, we'll close with some live Q&A to answer questions submitted during the presentation via the Q&A widget. This presentation includes forward-looking statements. Safe Harbor does apply to some of what we're going to show you, which may take a few weeks to make its way into tenants. And now that everyone has seen our Safe Harbor agreement, let's begin. So I'm sure some of you on this call have kids with schools trying to reopen, so many moving parts, taking care of loved ones. These are truly unique and challenging times. Also, we all have jobs, and the companies we work for are going through some tremendous change. Some industries are surging, some are contracting. Everyone has a new normal. But the thing I love about this business is that I get to work with great organizations, helping them stay safe, mitigate risk, while also enabling them to spot the next opportunity. Now, I spend a lot of time talking to customers, and this is what they tell me they're working on. Finance teams are prioritizing cash preservation and monitoring costs, procurement disruptions and vendor risk, capital investment strategy, and continuous scenario planning. With HR teams, we're talking about employee experience, returning to the workplace, diversity and inclusion, as well as reassessing skill strategy. And make no mistake, tough decisions are being made all around. So now, more than ever, everyone needs to work together. And doing so requires accurate and reliable data that the organization trusts. With Workday, it has always been about the data, critical workforce and financial information. And our customers' appetite for data is ever increasing. Across all our customers, and maybe guess a number in your head here, but total report executions across all our customers. Take a second to think about that, what you think that number is. Well, total report executions increased to 1.29, almost 1.3 billion in July, a 55% year-over-year increase. Now, that is a lot of data. However, your ability to quickly move from insight to action is hampered if everyone isn't working in the same system and, more importantly, off the same set of numbers. So our goal at Workday is to provide everyone here on the line and other HR and finance teams like you a single system to plan, execute, and analyze your business. And from an analytics perspective, we like to say our customers are on a journey. This is the analytics journey with Workday. What is driving this journey for customers that want to go all in with Workday for analytics and reporting? And there are many. It's the desire for better governance of their organization's most sensitive and mission-critical workforce and financial data. It's also about our founding principle of the power of one and the security, distribution, and experience enabled by analytics and reporting embedded in core systems of record. Now, take a minute, think about your day-to-day. Think about your teammates. Think about the teams you support. Think about the different needs of analytics creators and consumers. Now, no single tool can provide all of that, which is why our portfolio of tools has been growing and we've been innovating furiously. So whether that's specialized analytic applications for executive level insights, tools that enable data scientists to access Workday data in their preferred environment, data discovery for ad hoc analysis and more strategic partnerships between HR and finance and the rest of the business. Our approach is to provide common analytics experiences that are task-oriented, built on a data foundation like no other. And for this reason, there is no single bolt-on analytics solution for Workday. Our persona-driven capabilities are embedded with and work across the Workday platform. Every Workday HCM and financial management customer receives, as part of their subscription, a core set of fundamental building blocks: report writer, dashboards, worksheets, and slides, and now discovery boards, which we'll go into detail on in a bit. These tools provide a range of views into your Workday transactional data: journal lines, skills, expenses, recruiting, business processes, payroll, etc. For those customers that want to analyze non-Workday data alongside Workday transactions without the risk associated with taking sensitive workforce and financial data out of Workday, we created Prism Analytics. And the demand for Prism Analytics has been extraordinary. It's the fastest growing new product in the history of Workday, with now well over 500 customers. Now, we won't talk about this today, but for our customers in FP&A, we also provide reporting capabilities specific to the planning process, and these are embedded in our enterprise planning platform, Workday Adaptive Planning. Lastly, we just launched our first analytic application, Workday People Analytics. Now, our approach to analytic applications is unique in the market in that we are focused on delivering world-class augmented analytics technology through these applications. Our proprietary engine Storyteller leverages pattern detection, graph processing, machine learning, and natural language generation to provide a truly unique experience for HR business partners specifically and the executives and business leaders they support. Now, while this sounds like a lot, the how, as we like to say, is really quite elegant, and we are well on our way to achieving our vision of a unified analytics and reporting architecture. built on a foundation of one source for data with a single analytics engine and data access layer. With the 2020 R2 release, we'll be unlocking a significant piece of this vision. So R2 is all about the blue box in the upper left, the Discovery Boards canvas, which supports analytic applications such as Workday People Analytics, and in the future will enable us to deliver Discovery Boards for financial reporting. Now, moving on, Manogna Bhargava is the lead product manager for Discovery Boards, and I'm thrilled to have her join us to go over what you all can expect from Discovery Boards with the R2 release and beyond. Take it away, Manogna.
Thank you, Will, and good morning, everyone, again. As you just heard from Will and saw on the journey slide, Discovery Boards is eventually planned to be the single universal analytics canvas for all of Workday Analytics. The buzz of the hour with 2020 R2, currently though, is that it isn't just Prism customers that can use Discovery Boards to query operational data, but in fact, now all customers can use Discovery Boards on core transactional data using Workday delivered data sources as well. So what does this really mean? It means that even if you have not purchased Prism Analytics as a SKU, you now have access to Discovery Boards in your preview environment and should start to use Discovery Boards for reporting and analytics right away. Why? Further below, 2 reasons. First off, Discovery Boards provides you a much more modern and intuitive report authoring experience for creating reports. We've heard from some of you that while Report Writer is very powerful, it does demand a certain learning curve or an investment. Whereas Discovery Boards takes a very intuitive approach to writing reports and saves you scores of clicks and much needed time back. Secondly, it also enables true ad hoc analysis and helps you put the power in the hands of your users for them to ask questions of the data themselves. It will free up reporting and analytics bottlenecks in most organizations by helping casual and power users, not just report writers, quickly pivot and perform ad hoc analyses in real time on live Workday transactions. So if there's one thing and only one thing you take away from today about Discovery Boards, it should be this. It makes writing and consuming reports in Workday dramatically easier and makes it a much better user experience. Some of this is already evident from the early adopter program that we had, which grew from about 10 early adopters at the start of the year to 300 in about July end. And from the feedback there, the vast majority are thrilled with the drag and drop UI for report creation. Our analysis shows that it was almost up to 3 times faster to create reports using Discovery Boards. And most early adopters have highlighted the fact that it's easy to get going with minimal to no training on the tool. And hence, they feel much more confident about making this available to others for their ad hoc analysis use cases. So all customers can create a whole new class of Discovery Board analysts outside the traditional domains of Workday report writers. Discovery Boards are built into the fabric of Workday across applications. So with the 2020 R2 release of Discovery Boards on Workday delivered data sources, we made sure to include popular index and performance data sources that span the needs of multiple personae performing functional operations across Workday application areas, such as workforce management, payroll, time tracking, recruiting, compensation, benefits, financial management, and many, many more. Discovery Boards on these data sources comes with support for data source security, meaning that it respects existing domain security, allowing you to only see data that you have access to, and there is no need to have any special security configured. It also comes with support for data source prompts and filters. Also supported are calculated fields like format date, convert currency, lookup related value, etc., and multiple filter operators such as number, currency, text, Boolean, date, and instance operators. Here are a few more capabilities that we can take a look at. For starters, Besides being able to drag and drop, which is already a huge shift from the existing report writer paradigm, you can also create impactful visualizations like dual axis and combo charts, where you can define a secondary axis so that you can plot metrics of varying scales of magnitude. And your metrics can be of different mark types, like this example here, which shows a bar and line chart. While this particular whiz was also introduced in Report Writer in the past release, there will be newer chart types that will only be made available through discovery boards in the future. A couple of examples of these, as you can see on the next slide, are scatter plots and heat maps. These are planned to be made available very soon, in a couple of weeks, with the delivery of discovery boards to production tenants. Scatter plots are useful when comparing 2 or 3 measures, like comparing cost versus revenue and customer satisfaction. Heat maps are useful for visually analyzing the relationship between 2 variables, like viewing total sales to determine which combination of, say, regions and product SKUs are selling the best. Also coming with production GA is copy discovery boards, a productivity enhancement, which will allow users to make a copy of a discovery board that is shared with them. One thing to keep in mind here is that the user has to have access to Drive and has to be part of the Create Discovery Board domain to make that copy. And once copied, that user is now the owner of the copy discovery board as well. Another game-changing capability with discovery boards is where the admin persona can select fields from a Workday-delivered index data source to form a curated list that they can then set as the default for report writers and analysts to use in discovery boards. In effect, making it possible for each organization to customize that Workday data source to their needs. These lists can be toggled on and off using the Show Curated Fields toggle button, as you see on the screen, at the board level. It is set to on by default and hence reduces clutter and makes it easy for discovery board users to find the fields they need for their analysis easily. Next, with level security, this was actually one of the most important items we received as feedback from our early adopter program, and we were glad that we were able to address it in time for general availability time. With level security, the contextual security of the processing user is applied on the visualization based on the processing user's access to the data source behind a viz. In the slide that is on the screen, a discovery board creator has shared that discovery board with another user as an editor. But the shared editor does not have access to the data source that is supporting those visualizations. And hence, you will see, or that user will see a lock icon on the UI with that error message. The last one I wanted to share today, but by no means the least, in fact, one that's probably the most highly anticipated, is drill down and detailed data support. This is coming to preview and prod a little later this year, but this feature provides the capability for a user to drill into the details of a specific data point or measure and slice and dice that measure by different dimensions during design and runtime. It is a super popular interaction that most existing users tend to use in Report Writer, and we are confident that the delivery of this feature will help skyrocket the adoption of discovery boards within your enterprises. So to tie everything together into the larger picture for the discovery boards roadmap, the left panel that you see here is a recap of the 2020 R2 features. Drill down in detailed data, as I mentioned and highlighted with an asterisk here, will be R2+. But in the middle, for 2021 R1, there are exciting things to look forward to. Additional chart and visualization types, such as waterfall, pictogram, and KPI, will offer you more flexibility and choice in visualizing your data. We are also working on exposed controls, which will allow a discovery board creator or an editor to give the viewer light data analysis capabilities or a level of control over the discovery board that they view. There will be continued and expanded support for additional calculated field types as well. And we are exploring support for fields with built-in prompts and multi-instance field types. One of the key things to look forward to shortly after 21 R1, as marked with an asterisk here, is delivered discovery board content. We are exploring frameworks to support the delivery of pre-built discovery boards that customer users can then configure for their organization. And also on the drawing board right now is the Discovery Board Catalog, still a working name, but essentially a set of tools that will allow admin users to find, select, configure, and publish the delivered Discovery Board content to their consumers in the organization. And even farther out, on the future of Discovery Boards, on the right here, expect enhancements to the drill down and detailed data capability to be at a visualization level versus at the board level that we speak about for R2, integration with slides and global search, and the capability to configure custom color palettes for charts and visualizations. We will also continue to deliver additional advanced chart types and expand support for export control and filter operators. Lots of exciting things and exciting times for sure. I know that was a lot to unpack already, so here are a few additional resources that you can use as a reference to review the information we just spoke about. The community page linked here will serve as the central spot to house all Discovery Boards related information. In it will be the complete list of supported data sources, how-to articles that will give you step-by-step instructions to build out Discovery Boards for workforce analysis and revenue analysis use cases, several rising sessions on Discovery Boards from both the analytics product team and also customers like you who shared their use cases and excitement for the product. However, if you are time-strapped, which I know a lot of us are in the current times, the one-stop shop I would recommend for playback is the Prepare for Discovery Boards launch webinar from 8/5 right here on Community. This will give you everything you need to get Discovery Boards turned on in your workdays. So with that, I'll pass back to Will for a lightning round of FAQs.
Great. Thank you, Manogna. Great stuff. And Don, moving on, I'll need you to join me here. I thought it would be helpful to do a quick round of FAQ, and so that we're all on the same page before we dive into the product. So Don, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, so question number one, which tools are included with my core subscription and which are add-ons? I'll do this one quickly. Prism Analytics, Workday Adaptive Planning, and Workday People Analytics are all add-on products. Everything else is included in your core HCM and financial management subscription. That would be Discovery Boards, Slides, Reports, and Dashboards. Now here's one for you, Don. Okay, I already have reports that cover, insert your topic of choice. Why should I invest in Workday Prism Analytics or Workday People Analytics?
Yeah, so there are north of 4,300 reports delivered with Workday, so there's a good chance that what you need is there already from a reporting perspective, plus all the custom things you can build. But when we think about Prism, it really is about being that data hub for external data, bringing in those non-Workday sources so that we can augment the data that's already in Workday. Then People Analytics is really about scale and insight, the ability for the engine to go out and find those hotspots, things that were trending really well or maybe poorly, things that might go unnoticed because we just don't have time to look or we're not sure where to look. And so People Analytics will surface those to non-analytic personnel to help them understand their data better.
Yeah, and getting back to personas, I mean, all these tools are complementary. So People Analytics is really focused on that HR business partner and the manager they support. Prism is really about that analytics and data team that sits within the Workday project. Next question. Should I continue to invest in Report Writer given Discovery Boards are now available to everyone? Don, I'll give this one a go. So Discovery Boards are, as Manogna said, more intuitive, efficient tool for report creation. However, some kinds of reports can today only be created using Report Writer. And so the way to think about Discovery Boards is expanding the number of users that are able to touch data and analytics within Workday, because there's no onboarding or training necessary. You can expand the who would be defined as an analyst for self-service analytics to just have greater partnership within different areas of the business. Next question, how should I set up security for discovery boards and who should have access? Don, I think this is a good one for you.
Yeah, so discovery boards, they're designed for both the technical power user and the business user that has maybe limited data skills. So you don't have to just give access to your report writers. In fact, at Workday, we have separated those things out. So we have folks that are report writers internally and people who have access to discovery boards because it is easy to pick up. It is easy to kind of spread out the number of folks who are able to do that kind of reporting, using things like curated field lists and FIS-level security to make sure that you can share things confidently using the security you already have in Workday.
Okay, Don, another one for you. What does a typical Workday analytics and reporting team look like within an organization?
Yeah, I'm looking at the attendee list and the different companies they're on today, and typical is a hard word, but it really varies across organizations. So some customers have very small analytics teams supporting large global enterprises. There's typically a few key roles. One would be someone to be that kind of strategic partner, bridging the gap between the reporting itself and the business, somebody who understands the business need as well as the tooling itself. And then you have a data administrator on the Prism side. So that's more of a technical function. That'll typically come out of FinIT, HRIT, or maybe IT directly. Someone who can do the integrations to ingest that external data, do the transformations. And then, of course, you have your report writers and analysts who are going ahead and sifting through the data itself, creating the kinds of analytics we'll look at today.
Yeah, and I would add and emphasize that idea of small teams supporting these large companies. I mean, they really view Workday as this force multiplier that helps them scale because these are definitely non-trivial problems that they're trying to address. So last question, then we'll move on to product. And I'll take a crack at this. So how long will it take to deploy Workday Prism Analytics or Workday People Analytics? So we get this question a lot. On the People Analytics side, about 8 to 12 weeks. Now, this is a new product, so that's why we offer the range. But the beauty of Workday People Analytics is it is a standardized, delivered analytic application. And so there, a lot of deployments look kind of the same, and it's just a matter of getting it up and running on your Workday data. For Prism, again, it depends on complexity. So we have customers that pick one of our accelerator packages, which could have you up and running in a matter of weeks or 1 to 2 months. Picking 1 or 2 use cases to focus on, and then growing their number of Prism use cases once they become self-sufficient on the tool. And then we have customers who are deploying 4 or 5 use cases as part of their HCM go live or as part of their financial management go live because they, see the need to have that non-Workday data visible in Workday from day one of that go live. So in that instance, your deployment is closely tied to your larger HCM and financial management deployment. But we've seen everything, and we've seen a lot of customers come out of these totally self-sufficient and increasing the number of Prism use cases in their organization. So with that, Don, I'll just hand over the reins to you and to take us through the product.
All right, thanks, Will. I'll just get the sharing going here. So while that's coming up, I am an enterprise architect, so my role at Workday here really is to educate our prospective customers and customers around Workday technology, and analytics being one of those main elements that I've been spending a lot of time on over the last couple of years.
Great. Looks good, Don.
All right, thanks. So I am in as our dear friend Logan McNeil. I will wear a couple of hats today as Logan as we move through the demo. So first is really Logan as an HR leader, somebody who doesn't do analytics but benefits from analytics. And so when we think about Prism, we think about that external data. And this is just our demo tenant here, but look at the kinds of things we're doing from a use case, bringing in call center metrics, total rewards for things like stock and benefits that maybe are not inside of Workday, worker history for 5, 10, 20, 30 years, however long we need. Pulling in things like property, energy usage. The list goes on and on. Prism, really, there are no bounds to the types of use cases we can support. The one I want to focus on today is employee experience. So this is really about doing survey results that are outside of Workday. Now, of course, Workday has survey capabilities, but we also recognize that customers do different kinds of surveys in different places. And what we're able to do is surface those different survey results right within the system, so right in that system of engagement. And in this case, we're pulling in those survey results both from Glassdoor as well as some third-party survey tool. And right out of the gate, Logan has a high-level scorecard where we can look at some of those key KPIs around what is our overall experience score, what is our average participation. Any of these that have the little icon means there's some commentary that someone has provided showing we are above the target participation rate here, but we've come down a little bit. And then Logan can go right into a detailed report. This is all just standard Workday. If you've used Workday reporting at all, this all looks familiar. The difference is this data is not native Workday data. And you could do this kind of analysis in your survey tool, or maybe you pull the results into Excel and you could do things. Where it gets really interesting, though, is where we start to look at this in conjunction with other Workday data. And if we want to slice survey results by gender, by location, by pay range, we either have to put that sensitive data somewhere else, which is a high-risk operation, or we can bring the survey results into Workday and do that slicing and dicing. So in our sample board here, we have things like belonging and inclusion details. We've also brought in leadership and diversity benchmarks. This is using Workday benchmarking to look at 3 specific gender-based benchmarks that are out there and how we are tracking compared to those. So we are right at the 50th percentile for female percentage. Our male-to-female ratio is actually quite high compared to those other companies we're looking at. I mentioned Glassdoor earlier. So we found at Workday that a lot of our folks were going out to Glassdoor frequently. So we just got a subscription to Glassdoor. We make API calls, and we ingest that data. Now they don't have to go to another place. They can look at it directly within Workday. We also do attrition assessment in this particular example, which may be yet another survey tool. I want to focus, though, on employee sentiment. So very important to keep a pulse on our folks right now. The questions we're asking are different, in light of all that's going on with the pandemic. So this example here is showing a trend over time. And this mirrors what we do at Workday with our own surveys. So we score from 1 to 5 on a host of different questions, and then we categorize those questions. So we can see here on this chart that those who are engaged has come down a bit. Our excellent scores, we were doing really well. That has dropped off the shelf. And those who are not engaged has come up. So we are not trending positively when we look at this particular chart. And now is where it gets really powerful. I can jump into these bars and start to do analysis by things like gender. So in our most recent survey, we had a high amount of people who were not engaged. Well, who are those people broken down by gender? It's about 2 to 1 male to female. Maybe I want to get more granular and look at that by age group. And I can quickly see that those males from 41 to 60, they are outpacing the females who are not engaged by a wide margin. I might then further subdivide that and understand where are they? How long have they been here? Is it my experienced employees or my new employees? Or I might just want to break this down to a management level and understand where are all of these folks who are not engaged? Are there particular managers who are maybe struggling in these difficult times? So I can go ahead and pull this chart up, and I'll just sort descending so I can see what manager has the most disengaged people. And it's Boris by a wide margin. And if I look at Boris from an organizational perspective, he has several organizations, and a couple of them have a lot of people who are disengaged. So as a leader, this is maybe as far as I can go. I know we have a hot spot here with Boris. This is something I'd like to turn over to my analysts and say, can we dig in? Maybe Boris is struggling in this environment. Maybe there are things we can do, or maybe Boris just isn't following corporate procedures. So that's what we're going to dig into. At this point, I will turn things over to more of that analyst persona. But wrapping this up, as an end consumer in Logan McNeil, I'm just using the analytics someone else gave me. They're consistent with delivered analytics. The experience is completely the same. Security is governing all of this. All right. So I will still be logged in as Logan because, as many of you know, she can see and do everything. But imagine, if you will, I am now changing my persona into that of a business analyst. So the CHRO has asked me to dig in to what's happening with Boris and his organization. Let's understand why we have so many people that are not feeling very engaged within the organization. So here I am in Discovery Boards. This is that environment Manogna just spoke about. Very excited that we got the demo today because a lot of features dropped last week, so I get to show you some new stuff today that I couldn't have shown you before. As an end user in Discovery Boards, today what I'm primarily able to do is filter the results. So I could filter every visualization on the sheet, or I could hone in on a particular visualization and change what values are in those filters. As we move forward, you just saw a slide there, we'll start to be able to do drill downs and other analysis directly within the Discovery Boards. The real power of Discovery Boards is that ad hoc analytics. That is the exact same visualization you just saw on the dashboard. That's because that's how we built it. We came in here, we did drag and drop analysis very quickly. When we got to something we like, we saved it out, put it on the dashboard. But I don't just want to look at this average score for everybody because we know we're tracking pretty well. I want to focus in on Boris. So let's go ahead and just choose Boris as the manager here and see how he's tracking at these individual factor level. And, of course, one of them jumps out because it's a demo, and I made it do that. But outcomes. So Boris is struggling in the factor called outcomes. That gives me something I can start to drill into and understand. So I can now start to go ahead and change maybe some of the fields that are showing up on this particular visualization if I wanted to. Or I can make a duplicate. So just real quick by way of tour, you saw filters. This is the builder panel. This is where I can choose fields. If we were doing any curation, I don't think we've done that here, but we can limit the amount of fields that show up as an administrator. So if you take a delivered data source that maybe has 200 fields and you only use 30 of them at your organization, you can limit that down, which makes it even easier for report writers. And then we have the data sources as well. I can take a look at that really quickly. So we're using a delivered Prism data source here, but this could be based on any number of data sources that are out there. Maybe it's something on the financial side like invoices. So there are a host of invoice data sources out there. If I search for JO, we're going to see journal lines and job postings. So these can be both delivered data sources or Prism-backed data sources, and they'll behave exactly the same. All right, let's take this particular board and let's start to break it down. Let's make a copy of that. We could create one from scratch, but this one's a pretty good starting point. So I'll just go ahead and duplicate this. And rather than looking at, maybe I'll change the name here. We'll call this Outcome Response Trends. All right, and then we'll move into the panel here where we can start to change the fields that are showing up. So instead of factor, maybe I want to, actually I'll change the filter here. I'll look at just outcomes, those that are in the factor of outcome. So I'll just choose outcomes, limiting that down. So now I have a report that is only about Boris, that's only looking at his outcomes. So we're getting more granular. What I want to do from here is instead of just looking at factors, maybe I want to look at focus areas within the factor. So I can drag that over and just replace the color there, and now I will see the different factors that make that up. So we have focus areas, we have factors that are made of focus areas, and then there are questions within those. So these two focus areas, they're scoring about the same, so maybe I want to go deeper. Let's take this down to the survey question level. We'll drag that in, replace focus areas, and now we can see how he's tracking on specific questions that are being asked of Boris's team. So I can see the things that are trending low, and this is a decent visualization, but I think it would be better if I change the type here. And it gives me an excuse to show you some new capabilities. So here is a heat map view of that exact same visualization. And I can always expand any of these, resize and move them around. So I can see that Boris was doing really well, 2018, 2019. When we got into 2020, things have not gone well. And the light-colored ones are showing me the areas where he's struggling. The question, GMS is a safe and healthy place to work, not doing well. My manager actively models GMS's values, not doing well. So now we know that we have a situation here where Boris is not tracking well in a couple of specific areas. At this point, we might engage Boris. We might bring in things like card swipes for the people who are logging into the office, right? Does Boris have people who are going to the office more than others? Are they not feeling safe because of that? But the angle we took here was we went out and kind of looked at the text that people sent in with their survey results, and there was a complaint about travel. So let's take a look at survey results side by side with expense data that's looking at travel. So I'll turn this particular copy back into a regular chart. And so now I have this particular chart. I'll remove survey questions. And I'm now back to a trended report of survey results for Boris's organization. But what I'd like to look at is the average number of flights taken by month by Boris's team. Pulling this directly from Workday expenses. If your expenses are external, we could pull that in through Prism. Now that I have them side by side, maybe I don't want to see them side by side. I want to see them as a dual axis chart. It's just that easy. A couple of clicks and a drag, and I now have a dual axis chart where I can see flights sitting on top of survey results. And the big thing that jumps out at me is this big spike here as we move into the second quarter of this year. His folks are flying a lot. Their flights have gone up, so they're probably not happy because they're being asked to travel in an uncertain environment. That gives us something we can absolutely dig into with Boris as we seek to understand his organization and how we can make him a better leader. So, real quick tour through discovery boards there. You don't have to be a report writer to do this. You're dragging and dropping. You're answering business questions. If you don't like something, you throw it away. If you find something that's really beneficial that you want to share, you can then save that off, put it on a dashboard. And as we move into the future, you'll be able to put that directly into Workday slides. All right, so that is the discovery board experience. I will do one more pivot for you and move into a different persona. Now I'm taking on the role of an HR business partner. I don't know how to create reports. That's not my job. I'm about helping our team members, and I need to do that as efficiently as possible. And People Analytics, this delivered application, allows me to do that. So People Analytics is basically a collection of areas of stories. So this really robust engine sitting in the background, it's churning through millions of potential permutations of stories, and then it's surfacing those stories and insights to me based on who I am. I'm responsible for 3 organizations as an HRBP. That's the only stories that I will see. One of my peers will see a completely different set of stories. So how is People Analytics structured? Right out of the gate on the Overview tab, we have suggested business questions. These are the most common question areas that my peers are drilling into. So the hottest topics at our company right now, those will be surfaced to me dynamically. Down at the bottom is just quick links to the different areas that we have within the application, really the same as the tabs at the top. What I don't have in this version is my pinned stories. So as I see stories that I like, I can mark those and pin them so that they will continue to always be surfaced for me. The data will refresh, but the stories themselves will stay in place. Let's go ahead and move in, and we'll take a look at something like retention and attrition. So across the top are the 5 categories that we have: diversity, org comp, retention and attrition, hiring, talent, and performance. This is what we are going GA with. We will add more tabs in the future. The one we're working on right now for sometime next year, Safe Harbor, is skills. So we'll start to look at things like skills gaps as we move forward. If I move into retention and attrition, or any of these tabs, they all behave the same. We're going to see an explanation of what this category is, and then we'll start to see stories and charts and reports. So these stories are put in terms that I can understand as an HRBP. So if I look at turnover trends in the management level of individual contributor, we are up 17.6% in terms of turnover. Look at this thing is put into words that I can understand. In the last 12 months, 35 people left. 28 of them were voluntary. All right, that's way off of our historical trend of 19%. So the system's telling me, hey, you have a problem, and the problem is in this specific area. And oh, by the way, if you decrease the number of terminations by about 18, you'll be back on track. If I like this story, I can click the little thumbs up. I can say why I like this story, or I can say why I don't like this story, and then the system will give me or avoid giving me stories like that as it moves forward. So a couple of last things here. We also have KPIs. So these KPIs apply to everyone, but the data will change based on who I am and my respective roles. And I can take those KPIs and save them out, put them into Workday slides. And then the last one I want to show you is digging a little deeper. If we go to diversity and inclusion, a specific question. So these business questions are defined by Workday, and then the data is, of course, your data. So where can we improve gender diversity? I have a set of stories here. I could scroll to the right, can have up to 7 stories for each one of these questions that are being presented to me. If I don't know what a particular question means, I can always click the eye. It tells me exactly what it is in words, how we calculate it, down to the detail. And one of the big questions that often comes up is, well, hey, we don't calculate headcount like you do, Workday. What can we do? You can replace the default with one of your calculated fields, and the formulas will honor those specific fields for you. Let's take a look down here at where are gaps in gender diversity in management. So we have gaps at the cost center level within this country. Here's a country-specific gap, and then here is an org level 2 gap. So this is telling me, we're down 6.28 percentage points of females in management roles, specifically within this organization. But I can get more than that. That's already extremely useful. I didn't have to look at a bunch of charts to figure that out. The system told me this is important, but it can tell me more. I can drill right in, and I can see what that trend line looks like. So we had a bunch of people, huge runoff, so forgive the demo data. We had a lot of terminations, and so we're below our historical trend line. That's useful as well. It's confirming that we do have something happening here, but I can do more. If I take a look at top drivers, what are the things that are contributing to this story? Interestingly, one of the biggest contributors is folks who are above compa ratio. So this isn't a pay problem. That's extremely useful insight right out of the gate. Generation, we're seeing a lot of baby boomers who are leaving. That's important. We're not really seeing a problem among Gen X. What might that mean? Gives us more to dig into. So I'm really armed now as I head into maybe a meeting with my people leader with all the details I need. I can even get down to individual data level. So who terminated in May of 2020? Seeing the raw data helps me trust the high-level analytics. As we move forward, I'll be able to export this data and use it in worksheets and be able to do additional analytics on top of that data. And then to wrap our demo up today, I really like this story. I'm getting ready to meet with Logan, and I would like to share this with her. I can come right in and export this to Workday slides. All my presentations are out here. I can search Drive. I have one created. It's just my bi-weekly check-in with Logan. And I can select that. It's taking that particular story, putting it directly into Workday slides. Slides, just basically think Google Slides, if you will, but within the secure confines of Workday. So now I have this presentation, and it's not the most artistic, forgive me for that, but really simple in nature. So there's my header. This is a chart that is pulling data from worksheets. So this thing is live connected to worksheet data that's tied to an underlying report. Logan can just refresh this whenever she wants to and see the latest headcount or any other reports we want to share. This is one of those KPIs I shared in earlier. And then here are the two images for the story I just put into this slide deck. With that done, I can then take this presentation and I could refresh linked data if I wanted to. I could also go ahead and share this out with Logan. If it was something that maybe went to every manager in the company, I could choose that, and security that's already in Workday will decide what they're allowed to see. In my case, I want to share it with our CHRO, Logan McNeil. Can Logan change it, or can she only view it? And then I would share that out. So that entire experience there was me as an HR business partner, having the system tell me what's important. I don't have infinite time in the day. I need guidance, and People Analytics is giving me that guidance. And then once I find those important stories, it's allowing me to understand why they're important, what's sitting behind them. I can then get my analysts to go deeper into any of those areas. And finally, I can take those stories and share them directly out within Secure Workday so that Logan can see those as a presentation. All right, Will, that's what I had for today's demonstration. I'll go ahead and stop sharing.
Great stuff, Don. Thank you so much for taking us through that demo to see all of those analytics and reporting tools, talking about the personas, just very solid. So before we jump into Q&A, just some takeaways for the group. With Workday, it is always about the data. And so I would encourage everyone to start playing around with discovery boards to explore, better understand the data that you already have in Workday. Next, Workday is purpose-built for the offices of HR and finance, but we know that the needs of individuals and those that they support vary greatly. And as we build these new analytic experiences like slides, like Workday People Analytics, they will all share the same data foundation with governance and security for your most sensitive and mission-critical workforce and financial data. And lastly, our customers are truly our greatest assets, so host contributed solutions on community along with use cases. Join one of our design partner groups. Become an early adopter of a new product. Workday is a very collaborative environment. I know from the experience of launching Workday People Analytics, we've worked over the years with several companies, getting their feedback. It's really a great collaboration, and we can all learn from each other. So I would encourage all of you to do that. Now, There's a couple of upcoming events that you might want to check out, focused on planning, belonging, and diversity. Our new accounting center, which is a really fantastic tool built on Prism. So you want to make sure you want to check these upcoming webinars out. And now moving into Q&A, Don, lots of questions, but I picked out a handful. There were some common themes here. So let's just dive right in.
Okay.
Here's a good question for you. How do we ensure a business user doesn't pull in data that they shouldn't? Let's just say they're pulling in data to tell their own version of the story. What kind of controls do we have from an administrator standpoint to make sure that everyone's using the numbers we want them to use, and that and not only that, everyone's using the same numbers?
Yeah, so there are a couple of things there. The most obvious one really is thinking about that curation. So the ability, for those who are familiar with big data sources, some of them you think about total base pay, there are many fields that describe total base pay. You could curate the list so that there's just one, and everyone is using that list. Second to curation would be just the security that's already there. So people are not going to get access to fields they don't have access to already. So someone is curating the list. If it's a Prism data source, someone is defining the fields. So those who are building reports are limited to the fields that you are giving them. They don't have the opportunity to ingest external data. That it would be done by a more technical resource.
Great. I got a question here. I'll take this one. So thinking about the difference between discovery boards and Prism. So first off, Prism and discovery boards are separate products. Prism is an add-on purchase. Discovery boards are that visualization tool that you just saw. Now, previously, only Prism customers had access to discovery boards, but that era is over in Workday's history. Now all customers have access to discovery boards. Now, the only difference is if you only want to analyze Workday data, native Workday transactions, then you can do that in discovery boards today. If you want to bring in that non-Workday data, like Don showed, if you want to bring in that survey data or time tracking or Salesforce data, you're going to need Prism to do that, and Prism will function as your data hub that allows you to ingest, manage, and prepare all that data, which you can then look at and analyze in a discovery board. So another question here, Don, this is a good one for you. This is about configuring the stories in people analytics. So we get this question a lot, hey, can we configure the stories, but maybe talk about the benefits of analytic application versus, a discovery board, something you would build from scratch?
Yeah, absolutely. So you're all familiar with the infinite configurability of Workday. And people analytics and augmented analytics in general is really a different paradigm where we are delivering an end application. So this is turnkey. You turn this thing on, a little bit of configuration measured in a few weeks, and it's just running. So it is not an environment where you go in and define your own questions, define your own UI layout. It's intended to be an out-of-the-box application. That said, going forward, we will start to ingest a couple of specific data sets from external data. I think history and recruiting will be the first ones we look at. Longer term, maybe we'll get into more configurability around the questions, but that's way down the road, safe harbor, and it really is that turnkey application that we're after. The main thing you can configure today is, like I showed in the example there, if you want to change the fields that are being used in the delivered algorithms, you can point them to different calculated fields.
Great. I got a question here around, I guess these are all related to slides, and a couple people asking if, you can export stories into PowerPoint or PDFs. I'll give this one a crack. and if you want to add commentary, feel free. But the whole purpose of slides is that it keeps your sensitive worker and financial data inside of Workday. So that's benefit one, right? Like, we don't want to have this kind of data being emailed across the organization, potentially exposing this sensitive data. Number two is because the slides are part of the Workday platform, the data is live. So it's always up to date and accurate. So you can build that monthly, board package once, and the data updates according to your schedule. So there's a lot of flexibility and power of having these slides inside of Workday. So if you were to export it as a PDF or PowerPoint, you'd lose that. You would just have a snapshot. Now with Discovery boards, you do have the option to export, I believe, as a PNG image. So you do have that option, but again, the benefits of Workday is having that live, accurate data foundation, which you lose with a snapshot. Don, would you add anything to that?
I actually wouldn't, Will. That was right on target.
All right, great. So we're on a roll then. Questions around Discovery Board training. So as Manogna pointed out, community is your best place for training, how to get started, how to configure them. She did a great webinar about a month ago, and which is posted on community. So I would say start there. And if you need further assistance, you can talk to your account executive or your customer success manager, and they can point you to additional information. And now, Don, this is the last question, and this is a perfect Don question. So how is external data coming into Workday via Prism? And one person in particular asked, is it stored in Workday or is it queried on demand?
So is this when I get to pull out my architecture diagram? No, I won't do that. Yeah, so that data is coming in through a data ingestion framework that's part of something called Data Catalog, and that's a piece of Prism. So it is not queried on demand. We are bringing the data in. Then we are doing joins and unions and data. Think ETL for the technical folks in the audience. And then we're adding calc fields. We're going through all the work to transform that external data, marry it together with our Workday data, and then we do what's called a publish. And that publish is materializing the view, putting all that data into memory so that we can operate on millions or billions of rows efficiently. And that's why it's so fast, because it's all materialized and running in memory. So that's the basic short answer there. And definitely we would be happy to jump into deeper discussions around Data Catalog and how that ingestion is done.
All right, and so with that, thank you all for joining today's webinar. This has been a lot of fun for me. Don, I'm sure equally as fun for you. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks again for joining this webinar. Bye.